Hello there. Well, it's been a while, but I'm back and I hope you're all okay. And I tell you what, guitars don't build themselves, you know, so I better get on. Whew. Not sure how we're going to do this. Now, before I start this episode, I've got to thank our wonderful friends Leslie and Danny for sending me this amazing t-shirt. Yes, really sums things up. So thank you very much, guys. Really appreciated. Now then, in the last video, I asked for advice on pickups for this guitar. Was I going to use two pickups or one pickup? And if I use one pickup, where was I going to put it? And I've had a lot of responses, and I'm very grateful for all your responses. And probably the most popular choice was the one that I had in mind. But then something's changed my mind. It's one of those occasions where something comes along that throws a slightly different perspective on things and makes you think. Anyway, first thing I need to do is to sand the bottom and the top of this guitar to match the contours of this radiused surface. So it's going to take a little bit off there and on the other side, and hopefully the whole lot then should take on this gentle curved surface that I've got. So let's get some sandpaper stuck to this base. Now, I don't have any big sheets of sandpaper. I've got these strips of 80 grit, so I'll stick them sort of in bands across there with some masking tape and double-sided tape. I've not got a lot of it, unfortunately, so I have to be a little bit sparing with it. Hopefully I'll be able to reuse this stuff afterwards though. Of course, it would have been easier to put the double-sided tape on the board instead of the back of this paper, but hey, you do things and got to live with it. Okay, that's one done. Okay, that should do it. I know there's some gaps in there, but I think I can avoid those. Just going to get a knife and trim those bits off there. Okay then, well, I'm going to mask up and start the process of sanding. Well, that worked pretty well. The sandpaper is okay to reuse. I mean, it's expensive stuff. You don't want to You don't want to waste it if you can help it. I've got this sanded down pretty much to the shape. I think it's as close as I'm going to get. Looks pretty good, and it's got quite a nice shape on the sides there, so I think I can put that to one side. Now I'm going to concentrate on doing the ribs for the bottom. Now, if I was a skilled luthier, I would no doubt be splitting a piece of Now, if I was a skilled luthier, I would no doubt be splitting a piece of sycamore, if I can say it, down the length of the grain and then shaping it to the contour of the bottom of the guitar. But unfortunately, I'm not a skilled luthier. Probably don't have a piece of sycamore big enough, and I don't have an axe that would do the job. So I'm going to use a technique that I used for last year's Great Guitar Build Off, and that was to create laminated struts out of strips of wood. And to that end, I've got these strips of cherry. I've also got a couple of strips of oak. Now, the approach is very simple. I glue the strips together and then I press them down, and I do exaggerate the curves just a little bit, not a lot, just to make sure that I am going to follow the curve of this shaped base here. Then when it's all dry, I end up with a very firm strut. So I need to cut these down to size. I think I'm going to do 3 struts, sort of one there, and one there. That looks about right to me. Okay, so I've got all 3 sections. Had to use a bit of oak on the bottom of that one. I'm going to use these offcuts just to raise the ends up a little bit. I want there to be a little bit more tension on the back, so these will come in very handy. And that will just help bend those a little bit more and give me that extra bit of tension. Excellent. Let's get gluing. As you do it, the piece in the middle obviously is lower than these 2 on the outside, so I've stuffed some cardboard underneath there. So I'm going to just let this lot cure now, and we'll see what we get. Okay, I've left this overnight, so let's see what we've got. There we have it. Nicely curved pieces of wood there, and yeah, pretty strong as well. So that's the braces done for the the back of the guitar. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is actually cut the back of the guitar out. And it's just a question of choosing which piece I'm going to use. Okay. Got two pieces here. One should be thinner than the other, very marginally. Okay. I think my intention was to use that on the back and this on the front. I've got a bit of a split in the wood on this piece, so I think I'm going to use that on the back and use this on the front. Now fortunately, where the split is where the cutaway piece is. So if I pull that right back, line that up with the centre line there, I think I'm going to miss that. Let's do a pencil mark all the way round. Also need to mark this central beam that I've got and the supports at the back and at the front, just so I know where all of these bits fit. Now the joint in these two pieces is the centre line, so I don't need to mark that. I think that's all I need to do. So, okay, I have a shape to cut out. Okay, now I've sanded both sides and I've put marks on the centre lines of where the struts are going to go. So, and I've also done an outline of the inside of the guitar, so I know where the curves are. And I think what I'm going to do is glue these struts onto the back, but shape the ends so that they match with the curve, and then do the kerfing round them rather than trying to cut into the kerfing afterwards. So that's what I'm going to do. So it's a question of marking these up on the ends, tidying them up a bit with a plane, and sticking them on. Now then, you'll notice I've got this central strut, and what I'm going to do with that is just cut little notches out where the struts go across, so that's not going to be a problem, and I don't think it's going to take too much material out, and by the time it's all glued it's going to look great. Right then, well, I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time shaping the end of these struts, so I think it's time for this week's My Guitar feature. Now then, do you ever get the feeling that we're being watched? You may have a point, because this week I've been contacted by a multi-dimensional being from another galaxy. It goes by the name of, wait for this, Ali Neri Ingu Muro Oro Sobus. I think I got that right. Or simply Animus. In actual fact, I was contacted by a creation of Animus, a creation called the Child of Animus, created as a manifestation of our thoughts and feelings, desires and shortcomings, apparently. Anyway, the child has created a string theory machine. Now, we would know this as a guitar. And this guitar is called the Grand Grimoire, or the Guitar of the Dead. Sorry, did you see that? Anyway, let me carry on. Okay, where was I? The guitar. I mean, I suppose technically all guitars are dead. I mean, you wouldn't want your headstock, you know, producing a prize set of blooms, would you? But something going on here, something weird. Anyway, now this guitar feature is going to be a bit different because the Child of Animus has actually produced a fantastic video of him making this guitar. And I think it's, you know, I'm going to send you across to have a look at this video because it's absolutely brilliant. But before I do, I thought, let's have a look at the spec and have a look at some of the woods that he's used. Now, I'm going to go through the spec, but this time I'm not going to show you the guitar. You really do need to go and see the video. The link will be in the corner in a couple of minutes or so. If you miss it, it'll be in the description. Anyway, so let's have a quick look at this spec. So the body is sycamore, and the body veneer, or at the top of the body, is of Angol. Now I've used this wood and I think it's beautiful. The neck and the headstock are Indian rosewood. Now then, the fretboard is Bayer rosewood, and I'll come back to that in a minute because I think it might be something slightly different. But anyway, the fretboard inlay looks to me something like ebony. It's very dark, but I don't know, the being didn't tell me that. The bridge is a Tune-o-matic bridge. He's using locking tuners. The pickup, it's a single pickup, and it's a DiMaggio 36th anniversary humbucker. Sounds interesting. And what's really interesting about this pickup is the way that he's wired it with a single volume control with a push button, so he can switch between series and parallel wiring. And that's of real interest to me. Anyway, the scale length is 25.5 inches. He's got 12 jumbo frets, and the ones at the dusty end, 21 to 24, are scalloped. Interesting, really interesting how he's done that. And the finish is wax. I think it's microcrystalline wax from what I can see. So let's have a quick look at the woods that he's used. Now then, the first one I'm going to look at is the of Angol, because I have used this wood, but I've never sort of featured it on this section, if you like. So it's also known as a number of other names, none of which I'm going to attempt to try and say. It's sustainable, it's not endangered, amazingly, and the colours vary from shades of yellowish to reddish brown with darker brown, grey or black stripes. The workability, it says it's fairly easy to work and can tear out and dull blades. Now I find it's a little bit hard. I also find it's a little bit hard to plane. It will chip out quite easily, and yeah, you've got to be a bit careful, but apparently there's no health risks associated with it other than the standard ones associated with wood dust. Right, now let's have a look at this Bari rosewood. I think I might have pronounced that wrong, but anyway. Now, I had a look at that on the Woods database, and they call that Brazilian rosewood. But in actual fact, that doesn't really look like the fretboard. The fretboard looks more like this Bahia tulip wood, which is Brazilian tulip wood. And I think that's probably the one that he's used. Now, I can see why he's used it, because it's got that awful sort of looking, fleshy looking colours and tones. Anyway, its heartwood is streaked with yellows, reds and oranges and pinks. It's a beautiful wood, isn't it? Unfortunately, it is endangered. It's on CITES Appendix 2. It says it tends to be difficult to work due to its very high density, which of course would make it really ideal for a fretboard. And you've got to be careful with this one because it can irritate your eyes, your skin and your breathing. Anyway, come on, without further ado, let's get back to that guitar. So I asked the child, you know, what inspired you to make this guitar? And I got an official response from Animus. Let me read it to you. He said, after harnessing the power of deep water for the Great Guitar Build Off 2022 build, Coral Blue, I tell you what, go and check that series out. That's an amazing guitar. And the music is great as well. I sought to seek the power from the underworld and came into contact with a level 80 warlock, and the rest, as you say, is history. He forced his child to do his bidding. If you understand that, well, good on you. Anyway, look, it's a really fantastic guitar. I'm going to put a link up in the corner just there, so please go and have a look at it, because it's fantastic watching the child build this guitar, mainly with hand tools. Really skilled young man. And the backing music is absolutely fantastic. It's all original. It's prog rock at its best, and the playing and the production is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, please check it out. And the demo at the end, well, that really was a game changer for me. I've had some thoughts about how I'm going to use pickups on this guitar, and seeing the demo of this guitar, the Guitar of the Dead, has changed my mind, and I'll talk about that after you go and have a look at that video. But yeah, while you do that, I'm going to go and have a nice hot cup.
Solorians, now be good little nerds and do as Dave says and join me on the Child of Animus YouTube page. It's fantastic! So fantastic!
God, I'm sorry about that interruption. Normal service will be resumed when we can get the aliens out of the system. But in the meantime, Animus and Child of Animus, thank you for a great guitar feature. Thank you. Cheers. Okay then, well, you're back with this Earthling doing some more guitar work. Now then, I've shaped these struts And now I'm going to stick them down. I've got some pieces of wood that I'm going to use to clamp them down on the top. I think that's going to work. So yeah, let's get on and get these glued. Well, it's a bit of a contraption, but it looks like everything is really pushed down tightly. I'm hoping that what will happen is that once we release all these clamps and the glue's cured, that it's going to pull the body into the shape, or the back of the body I should say, into the back of the, to the shape I want. So I think I'm going to leave that to dry. Now then, I've made mention a couple of times during this video about how the demo that Animus does at the end of the video has changed my mind about the pickups that I'm going to use on this guitar. Now, I should explain that in the last episode I asked people to give me a comment on their views on should I use 2 pickups or 1 pickup, and if it's 1 pickup, should it be by the neck or by the bridge? And I had a lot of great comments back. And the majority of them was to say, well, with this style of guitar, put a pickup by the neck and perhaps a piazzo under the bridge. And to be honest with you, that was my preferred option until I saw Animus's demo. Now, at the beginning of the demo, he's playing the guitar with very clean sound, and he's switching between the parallel and series on the humbucker. And well, it's a really sweet sound. I just fell in love with it, and I thought, you know, that's the sound that I really would like for this guitar. Now, you can put a piazzo under the bridge, but you're not going to get the same sound as having a pickup right by the bridge. I think the piazzo will probably pick up the string vibration across the whole string, whereas the bridge pickup is picking sort of the nodes directly above it. So I've decided that that's what I'm going to go for. A humbucker by the bridge, and I'm just hoping that I can recreate those clean tones that old Animus has managed to achieve. Anyway, thank you very much for all the comments that you gave me, because that was really helpful. And well, I'm looking forward to getting this guitar moving. I'm sorry this has been a bit of a delayed episode, but we're back. Things are gluing, so things are moving on. So please don't forget to hit subscribe or hit the like button if you like this sort of content. And well, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Cheers.